Yo, this nigga Mewtwo is about to get the fuck blown out of him, bro. Fucking retarded ass nigga fucking making fucking allegations. I mean, there's no one point this nigga's probably gonna join the fucking PC. Alright, let's watch this shit. So, like when you assumed me and I supported Brando shit before hearing my side, I met him at alleged pedo. Okay, so first of all, I didn't trust you because of the pedal ring being stated there. I thought you were there because of what was presented to me. I didn't want to hear your side because it was already clear from empirical evidence that you were within this, right? And first of all, from further evidence, just furthering my point that you were involved with this, saying that, oh yeah, it's not as bad given the context. The previous screenshot from within inside the same GC, you take screenshots above when I supposedly admit snaking. I already admitted to snaking, but for purpose, for morally protecting. I already gave a moral justification for that. You want to attack the justification for that being moral or immoral in that for that fact. So let's go into this right here. Told you about her. You kept lying. Then when you got pressed because you tried to prevent. You had no further involvement. Okay. So first of all, this was also to protect this specific person because she was in trouble because if she ever did reveal this, okay. So if that is the case, it's for protecting someone during the time. I would rather protect them, morally speaking, from the further other moral justification I already mentioned, for the potentiality and shit, defending their personhood. If I'm defending their person, I am defending their moral rights. You are oppressing them if you don't allow for that potential world. I was protecting them for them being inside that danger, which would prevent them, right? So going off that, I already have reason to sit there and lie about that, but justifiable in a good moral fucking way. So I literally admitted to Sneaky, so there's no point in me like addressing that shit at all. I'm not gonna screenshot some worthless shit. I have nothing to do with your worthless bullcrap. Well, here we talked about cat. So I didn't lie on God, by the way, because here's the thing. I put in that we talked on cats, right? All we did was talk about cats, okay? So here's the thing. I know she showed you those screenshots as well about our DMs and everything. We quite literally talked about cats. There's a synthetical distinction in talking all about cats and then saying, well, he, I'll stop for all of them. Azhar regime. But, you know, there's a clear distinction, synthetical distinction in saying all cats versus we talked about cats when using the invocation of God. Because one dismisses all of it being symmetrical, fucking retard. If I was to grant that there's a relationship which involves the same like necessity for all these specific things, and then there isn't, that's a literal pure contradiction because it isn't involved in all sets then. That would literally just mean it's a set involving all things, but then there's a set that doesn't, contain within inside the same set of things, we talked about. That is a clear contradiction. I don't know if you can uphold that or something like that, because then obviously isn't the case that it's a part of that set. So allowing for that to be the set is so fucking retarded. Like, bro, you're so bad. Hold on. Let me look at this real quick. This girl, out of case she had in this ship, I was thinking protect her from an oppressive state of events, or just simply what was happening to her. I don't know if she's really did this shit. I haven't seen anything besides the doc claiming, and even then, this girl wasn't given a chance to better herself, okay? So, I literally stated, I don't know if this girl did this shit, and literally from the video, at the timestamp, 6:25, in my own response, I literally say she's not going scot-free, which means I morally uphold her as doing these actions. I've already made my stance clear that I'm protecting the person of this person, not their actions, not what they done. I think they can be morally redeemed, which you are not attacking. You clearly keep just present the same fucking case, same screenshots, which could be the case. So let's get back to the pedal, defender claims, okay? I work. Hi, I turned 17 this year. That's contradicted from the previous statements already presented. Obviously, if she's in a like state of emotional oppressive state and she's afraid of this shit and there's previous lies, obviously there can be a quantitative inconsistency. We can't literally trust her being 17 if there's inconsistency with stories. And after the fact that trauma already happened and then she's coming out, she wants somebody to help her, this and that, that just adds more reason to believe it's true because it's someone in desperation. Why would someone lie maliciously when trying to get out of a situation? That's desperation versus malicious which would involve some evil attempt at manipulating. But I don't see no manipulating if you're desperate for getting out of a situation. If you're manipulating, you're doing it out of your self-preservation, and that's still malicious. But even then, being desperate is not malicious. The two conceptions are clearly distinct. Even from a normative view, you're desperate to get out of a situation because you've been through this. Like, there's just so much low probability for that because you've been put through hell, extorted. You don't even want to do this shit too. So she's sitting here saying this. There's potential and more probability for being alive when we already have examination for the said thing being, well, of course, inside that same thing, the intellectually genuine construction of her saying she's 15. Is she sitting there saying she's 15? Which one are we going to prescribe as her right age to actually fulfill the allegations here? So what you're doing is just providing screenshots, which are inherently contradicted, to say for the same thing, by the screenshots I already have. They're just two contradictory evidence. You're gonna have to provide more shit for her being 17 in the first place. So this screenshot saying, oh yeah, she's 17, even though when she's admitting she's 15. There's already two contrasting evidence pieces here. The evidence, which was given by me, the empirical data for her being 15, more so, her being to the 10th grade and all that, that's being gathered to the point where 17 can be contradicted. Like, there's no other way in you saying that she's 17, despite her claiming she's 15 as well, in desperation to try to get out of the situation. I just don't see it. Okay, hold up. First, this nigga said he sneaked this, he didn't. Now he's going back to admit it, he did. First of all, I literally admitted that I sneaked during that to protect the girl. I've already stated that. I don't know how, many times you can try and point that out. Sib, Sib's logic. Believe alleged pedophile instead of his friend who's known for extorting, doxing, exposing pedophiles, then pretend as if you believe him. Okay, first of all, I pretend I believe you because you're a part of this brain. You're the one who's literally showing CP, and I'm beyond disappointed I'm not gonna believe you if you're trying to cover something up because there's more evidence for you trying to cover up because the girl's trying to get away. So from that same point, the girl's literally crying out for help at this point. You're sitting here, you're saying you're known for doing this, but obviously there's contrary evidence for you morally permitting this shit. So obviously your moral sets of propositions are intellectually dishonest, or it's just the fact that you said some random shit that you were not thinking about. And clearly all this shit is just you trying to say something in conveyance, but most of the shit is not leading up. So which argument is just presenting is just that, believe this specific person because, I've done this and this. Okay, sure, that's your reputation, but that doesn't mean you can't commit an action of bad. It does not permit you to failure in that same point. So, yeah. Okay, so I don't know what you're trying to convey here. The dude Saber thinks supports CP, totally not extorting pedos. This is you extorting a pedo. Doesn't condemn that there can be an action. I don't know how this literally creates some form of exclusivity from what you've done because they're two separate actions. It does not. It make you morally great. It does not make you more so that prove it's just you doing another action. I don't see how this excludes you besides you trying to say, the probability. But again, as a person can fail morally speaking and you did these things behind the back, there's more evidence for that. So obviously you could do this action. I just don't see how they contradict one another, proving your point by you not being able to do this or holding that there is victims, etc. What happened to being on break? Of course, you ain't gonna see if you not in court. I don't fuck with him. No, I just refer to him as my homeboy in the doc because this makes more sense contextually. Okay, if he's your homeboy, contextually speaking, towards the girl, you still hold him close, and you're saying you don't, say for example, you still think it's not as bad given the fucking context. It's still CP. It doesn't matter if it's just for contextual wise. You're still calling him someone closer, your homeboy. It doesn't just make for sense context. It's literally still saying you literally morally permit this. So if you don't agree, but you're sitting there saying it's not as bad given the context, that doesn't disagree with my point for you calling him your homeboy. Your homeboy just refers that he's close, but if it's just for say for an example, context, just still hold the fucking CP is still not as bad in the context as saying. And again, the only evidence I've seen so far was her claiming she was 17, but that's literally contradicted by the 15 parts. So I literally don't see how that fucking is the case. Okay, so I don't know if you clearly get the whole point about CP. My claim isn't that you originally support CP in terms of production, but the more situation about morality. I thought that was fucking pretty clear and indicative that you clearly support giving the girl was done. Literally, the whole entire argument was literally suggesting that you're not morally great either. I don't know how that doesn't directly attack my entire point. Also, you claiming this again is just begging the fucking question. You're going circular saying, this just proves this, same assumption. If you're not defending it, but you agree that it's, not as bad in the sense, but you still agree that it's also CP, you're literally permitting that. I don't see how that, saying you don't support it. The entire support thing was talking about you in terms of the morality towards the context of the situation. See if finally provides a screenshot relevant to the claim he's making. No, that isn't really a relevant screenshot. It's literally just showing the extortion. I don't see how this is relevant towards anything what I'm saying about it being morally wrong or something like that, and you not being morally great either. Like again, I'm not accusing you of being a pedophile or something. Obviously, you don't know the fucking distinction, so it's clearly that. So, just to be clear, this was our talk with inside the DMs. You tried engaging with him debate when I just wanted to have a talk, right? You just tried to engage rhetorically, right? Because, I gotta look rhetorical to try and gain a feat over Saber. What you've done is just beg the question repeatedly, repeat your fucking claims, provide fucking less substantial evidence, which I've already fucking attacked. This entire discussion was just, me in terms of that, trying to talk with him, trying to lessen the fucking tension, but, like, this entire talk was just me snaking. I've already literally admitted that's snaking, being the terms to protect somebody. But talking about the actions and etc., about me blocking, I didn't think rationally at that point. I admit, but the whole entire point was that I still thought this. And after that, this literally just caused more shit for me to believe that. So, he's talking about way before versus now, which now it is greatly supporting, in fact. So I really hold that belief that he's morally wrong in this case. I don't know how many times I had to fucking say it because you retards can't track. This time was just me trying to lessen the tension, try and converse about the action of me blocking him, just blocking him, not hearing the side. But after seeing his side now, doesn't really have great evidence. So yeah. The 17th, hold on. Yes. So the 17 point, I've already counted that. Oh man. The repetition is just crazy. Begging the question demon, man. Begging the question merchant. He's using the same reasoning to assume the same conclusion that, I'm wrong. While not also elaborating on my points I've made, because these aren't clearly conjunctive to my points. I'm not even going to get into that because that's the video for itself. Like, I already provided the substantial, like, points about 625, that timestamp. So I said, doesn't matter. It's still fucking CP production. Then he's saying, what? It's still CP that this person is holding CP, the extortion of this girl. CP. The girl is a minor. Consistently from what we saw of the data being observed and the messages, the chat logs, it's more consistent towards 15. And you can provide other evidence from her being, 17. I will happily grant that she's 17. Then I'll fucking stop my case. Until then, that'd be great of you to do instead of using fucking flawed fucking screenshots that don't back up against the other fucking evidence. It just suggests more contradictions within what she's saying and more inconsistency towards the 17 point, given the more far consistent reach of 15. Not even close to the point I was conveying at this fucking time. Holy shit. I'm just going to state this once again, just so we're clear. This doesn't take shit out of the context. Throwing someone out of CP in any general context equal bad. So, but you sit there and say it's morally not as bad, but you literally say it's bad. Nice fucking contradiction, dipshit. My entire point's proven. Retard.